Loeffler. I'm a physical therapist and on track, and I'm here to talk about proper running form. When we look at runners running, particularly endurance runners and beginning runners, most commonly we see runners landing on their heel or heel striking. And we have determined that it's a more, or that that's a less efficient means for running. So we're going to talk today about how to improve your running mechanics and try to get away from that heel striking form of running. Before we do that, I wanted to just kind of look at the anatomy as a way of showing you evidence why heel striking is not the most efficient way to run. So when we look at the anatomy of the foot and you look at your heel, you can see that your heel is really kind of a big block of a bone, as opposed to the forefoot, which has a number of smaller individual bones and joints that can help to absorb impact slightly more effectively than the heel itself. Also, when we look at the muscles that attach to the lower leg, when you land on your heel, you tend to absorb the initial impact of that landing on this muscle on the front of your shin called the anterior tibialis muscle. And you can look and see from this picture that that's a fairly small muscle. If you were to land on your forefoot, again, you're using the multiple joints of the foot to help to absorb impact. You're also using a much larger group of muscles in your calf. You have two main muscles in the calf. You've got the gastrocnemius, which is a significantly larger muscle than the anterior tibialis muscle that you use when you land on your heel. And underneath the gastrocnemius, you also have another very large muscle called the soleus muscle. Both of these muscles attach to this large Achilles tendon, which again, being a much thicker tendon, it does a much better job of absorbing impact than the relatively small tendon of the anterior tibialis. So to illustrate what happens as you land on your heel, the first initial impact is the heel hits the ground, and the force of the impact goes right up into the heel bone, like we said, which being a block doesn't do such a great job of absorbing that impact. So more of the impact forces are transferred up to the knee, hip, and into your lower back. The next point that absorbs the stress of the impact is that anterior tibialis muscle. So as the foot hits the ground, that anterior tibialis muscle becomes stretched, and therefore this muscle has to absorb that impact. So like we said, the calf muscles being a much larger muscle, the forefoot having a significantly higher number of individual bones and joints in there, makes a better impact point. As you land on the forefoot, instead of loading the anterior tibialis, you're loading the much larger muscle of the calf and Achilles tendon, so that can help to absorb that impact, meaning that the smaller muscle doesn't have to do nearly as much with that.